So what does a business guy from Oshkosh, Wisconsin think of all the closed-door maneuvering going on over debt negotiations? Well, he doesn't like it. But this business guy may be in a position to do something about it. He's a freshman United States Senator from Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, who joins us now. Great to see you again, Senator. Thanks for being here.
Well, David, thanks for having me on.
So describe for us, if you can, exactly the secrecy. I mean, you've suggested in the past that there are folks that reporters know that you and your colleagues don't about what's going on behind closed doors, right?
Well, it is pretty frustrating. We keep hearing and reading in the paper, all of these details of some plan, some mythical plan that the administration's putting forward. We haven't seen any of it. And that's just the problem. I mean, David, we're talking about a $3.7 trillion a year enterprise here, the American government. And we haven't passed a budget in the United States Senate in over 2 years. It's been over 800 days. And, I've been a business guy. I'm an accountant. I've had to produce budgets on time. I've had people produce budgets for me on time. And to think that the federal government can't even produce a budget, and then, a couple folks meeting behind closed doors are going to decide what the financial fate of America is. I mean, that is an absurd process.
It sort of reminds you of Obamacare, where so much happened behind closed doors that people were voting on something and they didn't even know what was in it. In fact, some people actually said that.
No, that just infuriates the American public that all of a sudden you get these bills handed down. They come down from on high, and you're expected to vote on these things in a couple days.
And it's only later, Senator, it's only later that we find out what's in it and how destructive that could be for the economy. I mean, rules, for example, in Obamacare that were crippling some small businesses. Maybe they were able to be changed later, but the fact that people vote on them before they recognize how harmful they could be to the economy when unemployment is still over 9%.
Well, David, I've looked in, since I've been here, I've looked in detail about the health care law. That is going to add trillions of dollars to our debt and deficit in just the first 6 years of implementation. That thing was so underestimated. So that's just one of the things, nobody's even talking about that. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you go through this process, the president's now getting all kinds of credit for, being engaged and willing to do all types of things. He has no plan.
Right.
If he was really serious about this, David, he would have been at the negotiating table acting in good faith months ago, back in January, February. He would have put forward a budget that would have been serious instead of being voted down by a vote of 0 to 97 by the United States Senate. Not one member of his own party gave it a vote. It was so unserious. So this president, unfortunately, and it's very unfortunate, isn't serious. He's not taking this serious. He's just playing a political game of chicken, and that's sad.
I think you're right. Everybody's playing a political game of chicken. I think people are serious about it, but they're playing too many games. And it's not just Democrats that are being secret about things. We don't know a lot of what Republicans are planning, too. Today, we got word of the McConnell plan, or I guess yesterday we did, which would essentially allow the president himself to set the debt ceiling, at least on a temporary basis. What do you think of that plan?
Well, first of all, these negotiations have frozen an awful lot of action. And, David, what I'm focusing on is working with the House of Representatives. And there's a growing group of people that are willing to increase the debt ceiling as long as we fix the problem. So we're working on this concept called cut, cap, and balance, where we pass a bill that actually cuts spending the first 2 years. It provides structural caps through legislation to put us on a glide path toward a balanced budget. And then it actually increases the debt ceiling, just what the president wants. But it does it only when the states when Congress passes a constitutional amendment to limit the size of government and balance the budget and send that to the states.
You're not answering the question about the McConnell plan. Would you give the president his own personal authority to extend the debt ceiling, even if it's only on a temporary basis?
David, I am focused on actually running a solution. I don't even want to think about not
well, a lot of Americans
are,
Senator. I got to tell you, the number of Americans who are against raising this debt ceiling is growing. A CBS poll has it at 69% who are against raising the debt ceiling to 24% who are in favor of it, even though that 69% know that there would be serious consequences.
Right. Well, David, I'm right with those folks. I mean, that's why I came here. I recognize we are bankrupting this nation. Our nation is in peril, but I came here to fix the problem. And I tell you what, if we get a constitutional amendment passed and send that to the states, I'll be happy to let the American people decide to instill that fiscal discipline, and that's what we got to do. This has got to be a two-step process. First, we have to put those hard spending caps, that fiscal discipline, before we start, then we'll have to operate under that. That's how we actually fix the problem.
By the way, another part of the problem is that even though everybody's talking about cuts in government, some of this is not real cuts in government. They're just talking about cutting the increase in the growth of government, right?
When we're talking about cutting, we're talking about cutting next year's spending from this year's levels. That is true. No, I'm about the only guy that actually talks real numbers. When you look at all these cuts, they're talking about some mythical baseline. The fact of the matter is what President Obama's budget does, it takes us from $3.7 trillion up to about $5.7 trillion. The Ryan budget takes us from about 3.5 up to about $4.7 trillion. So all we're really talking about here, and this really ends up being Washington speak when you start talking about cuts, we're talking about reducing the rate of increase in spending.
Which is not a real cut.
It's not a real cut, and that's when we're talking about capping, we're capping the growth in spending. And that is an important distinction the American people need to understand.
Very important distinction. Senator Ron Johnson, always good to have a businessman on our show who happens to be a politician. Thanks very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Citizen legislator.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.